Hello and welcome to Iron Port, proudly brought to you by Ghana Community Network Services, West Blue Consulting and Ghana Oil Company Limited. Media partner is the Business and Financial Times. And people, this week we are continuing our series of reviewing the paperless project that began in the ports of Ghana from September 1st in the year 2017. 1 year on, what are the issues, what has been done so far? Few days ago, we spoke to customs. They say their systems are 98% paperless. This week, we're going to hear from the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority when we are speaking to none other than the lady they call Madame Paperless. All around the ports, they call her Madame Paperless or Madame One, because she's a master of almost all the paperless issues. We're going to ask from her what exactly has the Port Authority been able to do ever since this directive came from the Vice President. We are hearing that the port says they're already 99% paperless. How true is that? 1 year since the Vice President directed that the ports go paperless. What would you say has been some of the highlights of this particular project coming from the Port Authority and also having led this paperless project all this while?
It's good the Vice President took that initiative. The objective of the paperless project was all about improving efficiency in our ports. And the Vice President led the team to ensure that the complaints that have been coming from the users of the ports in the past years are resolved to the extent that they can reduce the cost of doing business through our ports. Looking at efficiency, it was just not taking away paper documentation from the system, but he also looked at a major component of the clearing process, which is examination. And so he also indicated that from 1st of September, we should have joint examination in the port. So these are the two areas that came for the port that was supposed to improve upon efficiency, give customer satisfaction, and also reduce the cost of doing business in the port.
What about the customs barriers on the corridor?
Yes, I was going to go to that one, which is the third directive that came, and that was also to improve upon the corridor for especially transit cargo to move from our ports to our landlord countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Because after all, if cargo gets to the port and it doesn't get to the destination by moving through the hinterlands, you have done nothing. In the same way, if it is export and you have to move them from the hinterland to the port and it is not accessible for you to bring them down, you have done nothing. So all these three measures that was announced by the Vice President was all in the bid to improve upon what we are doing in the port to facilitate trade in the country. A year on, yes, the beauty of this whole project is the fact that every individual stakeholder in the chain was for it.
I see.
All the stakeholders said it was a good idea for us to do this. In the beginning, we were having few complaints from our colleague clearing and forwarding agents, but the issue they raised was that they felt that it was too close. The time, the target
to pilot it
for the sensitization, education, and what have you, to move on before we start the project. So, I think that to some extent, they had an issue.
They also had concern.
They had an issue because if you recall, the Vice Presidency declared these measures on 17th of May. And on that day, he promised to give us the roadmap, the stakeholders, the roadmap to go. And we all received the roadmap on the 2nd of August. Yes. And we were supposed to start the implementation 1st of September. So it was a bit so close, tight, and we have to do a lot of work preparing and then, you know, trying to interface the various systems so that we can have a seamless flow of transaction. It was a bit tough.
So there was no time for all of you?
Not just the freight forwarders, not just the freight forwarders, but I'm sure so far with the Eye on Pulse interaction with some of the major stakeholders already, it is well clear that at this point we are all happy. We are all happy with what we've been able to do together. Yeah. And so I will say that paperless, to a large extent, we have eliminated the use of paper in our process. If I take Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, we have terminals that we deliver cargo from. We have the Golden Jubilee Terminal, we have the Transit Terminal, and we have the Reefer Terminal. What we've been able to do is that prior to paperless, our customers, when ready to take delivery of their cargo, would have to come to our premises, at which time they had taken the release from the shipping line, so they have a delivery order, and then they have also passed a declaration with customs. And so they come physically to our premises. We have our revenue center. They go there, they take along these 2 documents, one from the shipping line and then the other from customs, to show to us that yes, these 2 bodies are ready to give the cargo to them. And then we take copies of those documents, we go into our system, and with the information in our system, we're able to generate the invoice, by a representative of GPHA. We do it on the system, but then they have to input the information in the system before the invoice is generated. And they input the information from the 2 documents that we have, and the other information that we have in our own system. Okay. As pertaining to manifest, we have received the manifest earlier, so we have details of that transaction in the system, as in terms of to confirm the container, the tonnage that it is holding, whether it's a 20-footer, 40-footer, and then the cargo that is in the container. We're able to have that from our system, and then take the other information from the other documents. There were 3 things you were dealing with. 2 that were hard copies coming from the shipping line. The shipping line and customs. And customs. Yes. And then the manifest, which was electronically already in our system. Okay. Yes. And so we do that, and then our rep would input information to come up with the invoice. And so during this process, they queue a lot. Yeah. But when we started the paperless, we were able to integrate our systems with GCnet. We take all the release information from the shipping line. We have access. The manifest is in there. We have also automated our billing system. So it's been defined into the system to the extent that once we have the parameters from the input that the clearing and forwarding agent has made from his or her office into the GCnet system, we are able to automatically generate the invoice without any human interference. And then back again in their office, they're able to access the invoice. And then once they access those invoices in their office, they can move to either ADB or EcoBank, any branch of ADB or EcoBank, to make payments. And then once they make that payment, the bank transfer that, because we are connected through GCnet to the bank. Okay. So the bank transfers that information to us, and once we have that information, we schedule the container to be delivered. It means that you received your money and you received it electronically. Electronically. Because now you are linked up with the bank electronically. Exactly. But are the agents able to pay online? Do they always have to go to the bank physically to pay? Yeah. Or are they able to pay online now? The payment online is the next thing we are going to go to. It's all the ultimate of the paperless concept is to get the access to be able to pay online. Yeah. But we have done the first step. You can pay in bank in any of the branches. That's the
first
step.
You go physical in the bank, yes, and then you pay.
Exactly. Okay. The next stage that we are going to move to is to ensure that we connect to the bank such that they can pay online.
How soon can this be materialized?
Well, we are working with the banks right now, and we are hoping that by end of the year we should be able to get some results for that.
From the beginning, we had a lot of concerns regarding gating, gate up. What was this business of gating? The Port Authority had a challenge with. What did they mean when they said you couldn't get in?
The process is like this. The containers are offloaded in the main ports. It could be from MPS terminal or terminal 1. Okay. That's where the vessels come to. And when they are offloaded from the vessels, they need to be transferred to the terminals, the off-dock terminals, you know. And so sometimes that process of transferring the boxes from the port to
either
the terminal,
either
MPS or terminal 1 to the terminal before it is gated into the system that we are going to use to do the clearance, as in interfacing with all the other systems. If it is delayed and the container is not on the terminal, then you can't even start the process. And this was one of the early complaints that we had when we started the process. Generally, that problem has drastically improved.
To what extent have you seen success when it comes to the implementation of this paperless project? How much success would you say you have recorded as a Port Authority? Let me
use this opportunity to add that the whole paperless project gave GPHA an opportunity to relook at the whole process that we have in place at our end for the clearance of cargo. Although we are ISO certified, with quality management certified, where we actually looked at our whole processes in the port, including the clearance process, and we were certified because then what we were able to do gives us an international standard. The paperless made us also to look at some other areas that we could improve upon. For example, you take our Golden Jubilee terminal. We used to have about 4 security checkpoints before the cargo finally leaves the terminal. And so one of that checkpoint is for verification of the invoices and then the way bills that are going to be going out, because we have some people who would forge a way bill to go out with a cargo. So after that, when we started the paperless, we realized that no, we could do the verification, which is critical to us, and then there could be just one more at the final exit to check whether you have gone through that verification process, and then the cargo can leave the terminal. So we reduced the 4 security checkpoints to 2, which was admirable to our customers. For us, apart from the statistic, the growth in the containers that we have handled through the terminal, which was abnormally high.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
And you can attribute that to the paperless?
Yes, we can attribute part to the paperless. The area that we can attribute to the paperless is the fact that so long as we are going to have the red, the green, the yellow, and we have a number of greens that are not going to go through that thorough physical examination to delay the number of containers we can deliver per day. It is going to turn around a lot of containers to be able to handle more. And then the part that is making the Port Authority happy most is the fact that we're able to satisfy our customers.
And the Vice President wanted to see 100% paperless system in the ports. The last time we spoke to Customs, for instance, they say almost all their systems are paperless now. The Port Authority, do you have all your systems paperless to the extent that if I have to begin any process with the Port Authority, I do not require paper from the beginning to the end?
For us, we were granted the opportunity to issue waybill. Okay, so yes, the Vice President made provision. Yes. And so when you come to our terminal, we still issue waybill.
The waybill, which is...
And then earlier on, I said that from time to time, if we have challenges with seeing the payment from the bank, then we'll require that you give us a copy of the invoice that you have paid for, and then we are able to schedule, and then we, if not, we do not.
If not, you have a total.
We have a total paperless. Now, the aspect that is yet to be properly addressed by all stakeholders, especially Customs being the main stakeholder, is the consolidation. From day one, yes, from day one, we needed to define a well planned out process for the consolidation in the system, because the consolidation has to do with a number of people putting their cargo in one container, and then they bring it. Somebody who we refer to as a consolidator will take charge, open, process document, open the container, and then the cargo is offloaded into the container freight station until the individual owners are ready for those pieces of cargo before they come for it. And we have not, all stakeholders, we have not defined that in the paperless process yet.
What is that?
Well,
1 year on.
Yes, it's a cumbersome process. We have to put it in the custom systems. I mean, that is being handled by GCNet and West Blue. They have to define that whole process very well in their system before we can also interface to make sure that the systems are working as they should be.
I've been trying so hard to find out whether you can say that the Port Authority is, say, 10% paperless, or 100% paperless, or 70% paperless. Or since you are Madam Paperless, you can say the entire Port Authority is paperless.
Yeah.
So what percentage can we put to it?
Let me say that as far as we are concerned, we are 99%.
99%?
Yes, because we have been given the permission to issue waybill.
So that one is not part of it.
So we issue waybill, it's not part of it.
We won't count that as part.
Yes. The only time is that bank issue.
That is when there's
when we don't have
a breakdown.
The payment in our system, then we request so we can schedule you to be able to take your cargoes. So even in the old system, where, like I described earlier, where we come in is you pay money to us, and the paper we issue receipts. But before we issue that receipt in the old system, we'll have to take the approval of the shipping line and customs, which were in paper. Okay. Now we don't take those two.
So
we
those
don't.
Are gone.
Those are gone.
Once those are gone,
paper
issue is gone.
Our paper issue is gone.
Okay.
It is the invoice that you have printed from your office that if we are having challenges with the system and we can't see the payments, we request that what you have, we actually don't even take the copies anymore. You take it, you take the details, you go online and you check our own system. The invoice has been generated in our system. It's the payment we want to see. So what happens is that when they go to the bank to pay and the bank have the feeling that the system is not working, the bank also takes a copy from them, a copy of the invoice from them. And then when you come to us, we also have to take a copy so we can reconcile with the bank at the end of the day, because we do daily reconciliation every day with the bank before we close. people can attest to the fact that our ports have improved over the years in terms of facilities, infrastructure, superstructure, equipment, and what have you. Gone were those days when people would want to take delivery of their cargo and they have to spend 3 weeks and over because we didn't have the appropriate equipment, we didn't have the requisite numbers and all that to handle the delivery. But today, I mean, people who are in the industry will confirm that we have moved our ports forward as far as the facility provision is concerned. It was where we have the service to provide and where you have a number of people, when you have over 16 agencies conducting inspection on the same container before the container can be delivered.
And now we have
what
3.
do you think? So if the Vice President has led the team and today we have only 3 to contend with, I think that we can only say that we have come a long way with our...
Good to know that. But there's also another area that of concern, and maybe as we are ending, and that's for your customers, your clients, the importers that you serve. The importer sits in a different country and can't tell that GPHA charges me 10 cedis for this service. They can't tell that custom charges me 1 cedi for that service. How can the importer also see some transparency at the port?
It's an issue. What we have in place right now is not really serving that purpose. Yes, we have customer service centers, our doors are open, the terminals are there, but the consignee can only come physically to check on what the invoice is. But what we are doing as a result of the paperless is that we are putting an app in place.
The Port Authority?
The Port Authority, yes, is putting an app in place where we'll use the bill of lading to program it to the extent that once the consignee or the importer who has access to the bill of lading uses the bill of lading to go to that app, they will be able to see their invoice if they input some few things, some few information like the container number and what their clearing and forwarding agents have been inputting to get access to the invoice. Once they do that, they'll be able to get access to the invoice.
Finally, what would you want to see? The changes would you want to see, the improvements in the paperless, so that a year from now, when we sit here or sit anywhere in any capacity to assess paperless, we can say that this time it's not 99% and there are no hitches, full automated ports.
I'll start with GPHA. I think that one of the areas that our customers are still of the view that we could change to make the paperless process better for them is the fact that they would wish that we could charge for our service after the provision of the service. As it is right now, you have to pay. Before. You have to pay before. And the fact that when we go to the field, with the explanations I have given, sometimes things change. So they would prefer that we all go to the field, whatever it is, when they are done, and we are loading the truck, we know that this is
the service we rendered, and this is how much you need to give me.
So then they go once and pay, and then that's it. I think that customs too can do a lot of things to make sure that we all avoid the paper at any point in time. And that was what I mentioned in our interview earlier on, that the internal remarks that they do, we don't have access to that system, but we are still expected to deliver the cargo or to release the cargo
based on
without seeing their remarks in the system, their delivery allowed in the system. We don't get to see it. and that is not good enough. So it can be an interface thing, just for us to view.
Okay.
And if we have access to view that yes, something has been done, or alternatively, they can do the internal remarks in their system, but they can release the cargo in the GCNet system. I would like to take the opportunity to also encourage all the stakeholders that we need to be a little bit more committed to what we are doing. We can do it. We can do it better than we are doing, and we should all be committed. And as and when we identify the challenges through the reviews that we are doing, everybody should go back and try to take action and work on it. It is only then that we can perfect the system as we want.
So Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority says 99% of its systems are paperless, according to the directive given by His Excellency the Vice President of our Republic. Now, note that these rankings that we are hearing from the agencies, one from the Assistant Commissioner of Customs and two from Madam Paperless, Madam ESTHER GYEBI-DONKOR, is based on the directive given to them by the Vice President. That means that it does not include export clearance system in the port. And also you heard her admitting that consolidation is also not paperless, and also the transit hasn't been paperless. So there are few other areas that did not fall under the category of going paperless. We will be asking questions going into the future. When are we going to see paperless in those areas? Are we going to wait for the Vice President to redirect, or the agencies are going to set time for themselves to make sure that all those areas go paperless? We also expect to hear from all of you that whether these rankings that the Port Authority is giving, the rankings that the Customs is giving, and all the other agencies, the praises they are giving to the paperless system, whether you can feel it as an importer or user of the port. Is it making any impact? We want to hear from you via the addresses you see on the screens. That is what we will be showing next. From you, what do you think? Is the port truly paperless? Is that benefiting you? We'll be hearing from you pretty shortly.
Hello?
Good morning, this is Samantha Wendy. I am sending a purchase order from SA2 Ventures International. Our policy for new supplies is 2 containers to start with, but you must deliver within 30 days.
Don't worry at all. I'm going to get you the 4 containers within 30 days or less. Bye.
To get his pineapple slices from his country to his clients overseas, Mr. Appiah and his representatives have to complete a number of regulatory compliance procedures to various international trade stakeholders.
Hey, Baba, what's going on? Can't you right? I mean, how?
Using single window, Mr. Appiah has completed all his international trade procedures through one portal. He has registered his company information, applied for the necessary permit, certificates and licenses, and all that remains is for him to get a text alert for clearance and movement of goods. And that's how simple facilitating international trade could be in a single window environment. You can offer competitive services to your trading partners in China, America, even here, in a simpler, faster, and cost-effective way. Single window, the only way to Ghana's economic growth, is in our hands.
Here's innovation from Goyle that takes you further. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Again, in the coming days, we will also be chronicling some of the challenges that we have gotten out of the stakeholders that we speak to all the time. And then we will make that available to His Excellency the Vice President when we have him next on Iron Port. Schedules of vessels that are sitting in the port, those that are also at anchorage, and those expected in the coming week, plus the Bank of Ghana exchange rates that you need to know to clear your goods out of the port. Again, in the coming days of reviewing the paperless, a number of issues have also come up that include the fact that almost every Tuesday, every week when you come to the port and you are coming to clear your goods, the exchange rate affects the duties and the values that are being charged in the port, for which reason different exchange rates is applied and different values are given every Tuesday. People are not happy at all. They say paperless without doing anything about this currency problem, duty will still be high. And also other things, other charges and fees in the clearance chain that people want to see eliminated. And that include the miscellaneous that is being charged by the freight forwarders all the time. People are not happy about it. We will analyze all of these as part of our paperless review in the coming days. Thanks a lot for watching this week's episode of Iron Port. Also have to say a big thank you to our sponsors and a big thank you to the entire crew, the executive producers of the program.